Football Focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Pitt.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. We're going team by team.
I would be very careful about slinging stones.
Am I going to get sued?
We go legal on this?
I like football season, and all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live here on a Wednesday, talking all things NFL here, Sam.
Yep. In the well, it's not frigid conditions in the studio, but generally the outside is frigid.
I wasn't planning on wearing this hoodie. I was going to wear this, but it's
cold.
I got layers on. I kept
5 degrees outside.
Forgot to take off the top layer because it's still cold. Yeah.
Now that's cold to most of us, but our listener in Antarctica,
yeah,
not cold to him.
It's probably a lot colder. Well, it's warmer there. It's summertime over there. You see?
Oh, that's true.
In the south.
What's the summer in Antarctica? Let's find out.
Probably 8. What's it? Hey Siri, what's the temperature in Antarctica right now? Oh, Siri's going to answer me.
It's minus 23 Fahrenheit, so it's still cold.
Oh yeah, it's warmed up a little bit there. That's good. That's good for Antarctica. So yeah, we're gonna fudge show here today. I didn't know we were doing this, but I see it in the title. We're gonna respond to JJ Watt.
Hopefully not extensively.
The CJ Stroud, Jordan Love grade. I mean, it's good analysis here because they had a near identical stat line. Why would their PFF grade be different? Yeah. So we could take a look at that. I think their QBR was very different too.
Having already done that on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do it specifically. We didn't attack it directly.
No, but we did, we did specifically contrast, hey, this performance was very different to the other performance, even though the numbers are quite similar.
And then we can discuss brothers in media because JJ's campaigning for TJ Watt to be like MVP, much like David Carr has done for Derek Carr in the past.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to, shut that down.
Oh. Brothers
in media cannot be declaring that their brother is the MVP. Can't be doing that anymore. You're not an unbiased media member.
I feel like you can do it, but it's a fairly obvious, evaluate the source thing here. Like if you can't see some bias at work there, then I can't really help you.
Derek Carr is the most valuable human in the world, per David Carr.
Yeah.
Just saying. And then so this is our fan bet review show.
Yeah, we've done a terrible job this season of keeping people up to date with how the bets were going. If you listened earlier in the year, preseason, last year I suppose, we took a whole bunch of fan bets. We had a load come in, and then we had a bunch of last-minute ones come in. I think we ended up with something like 59 different bets in progress over the year, us versus the fans. Some people put coffee on the line. That was appreciated. Some person put a tattoo on the line. Most others were just playing for the respect and chance to win a free PFF Plus subscription. Either way, almost all of the results are in. There were a couple that are still potentially to be determined, though I think they're likely to go in one direction. And then there's 2 that I need you to work on in terms of, because they're related to our picks. I suspect we lost both of those, but I need confirmation.
Oh, I need to, we got to add up the picks for the year and the whole thing.
I need your pick versus mine, and then I need to confirm that your child beat us.
Oh, yeah, I got to find Harry's pick. Harry was sporadic. Again, got grounded for 2 weeks from football, so it's like he'll have a different total, but he's got his game. He's already itching to get this week's picks in.
We have to give him the win percentage. I feel like it would be petty to take a technical victory if, in fact, we have more wins than him because he was grounded.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Also, that would have been open-based. Yeah, that would have been open to manipulation as well. Like what the kid's getting a bit too close to us, grounded for 2 weeks. I'm not saying he did that. I don't know.
You're banned from football. He was so sad those couple weeks. He could not sit with me and watch the 9 games at a time and the whole thing. He was very sad. But lesson learned. Lesson learned for Harry. All right. You want to get into this? Let's get into this explain the grade deal.
Okay.
So what happened? Why are we explaining this? Well,
okay. Well, so the main account, as so often gets us into trouble. The main PFF
never
account.
Tweet. Hashtag never tweet.
Yeah. Put out a tweet that was essentially just the best graded quarterback performances of Wild Card Weekend. Where is it? Here it is. So, highest graded quarterbacks, wildcard weekend. Jordan Love, 92.5. Matthew Stafford, 88.5. Josh Allen, 88.0. Patrick Mahomes, 88.0. Which, of course, omits the CJ Stroud performance that was so impressive statistically. So, JJ Watt retweeted that. Now I've muted that conversation, so I need to find JJ Watt's tweet. There it is. This is what happens when you try and grade football players with an algorithm. ... CJ Stroud's performance was, quote unquote, graded a 77.8. And people treat this shit as gospel and then facepalm emoji. So essentially, JJ Watt is like, well, this is what happens when the computer spits out a grade. This is dumb. This is wrong. These people are idiots. And people treat it like it's gospel.
JJ.
So that's his point. I replied to him saying, look, it's the fact that you think it's an algorithm kind of suggests you don't know anything about it. So maybe ask some questions before just firing off, tweets into the ether. Now, it's JJ Watt. He's quite popular. People didn't take that particularly well. So I have subsequently muted that entire conversation.
Oh, you were getting attacked?
Yeah.
We made you, JJ.
Mm-hmm.
We made you.
That was a joke. That was not serious. He's joking.
Just joking. You were the one who had 20+ sacks in a year.
He did, however, quite like the PFF data when it was saying, hey, J.J. Watt's getting a ton of pressures and, has an amazing grade. There are several tweets in the man's history where it's like, look at this. I'm great, But now it goes against what you believe, so you don't like the grading and, in fact, don't know what it is because you think it's just an algorithm spitting out data from from stats.
We didn't make J.J. Watt, certainly not. But the grades always loved J.J. Watt, not just the sacks and the pressures and everything, but we always graded him well as a run defender. And, to the point where when we converted it to a 0 to 100 grade, we had to consider the fact that J.J. Watt's grades were so far high and above everyone else, we didn't know how to properly account. We had to discuss how to properly account for that when throwing it onto a new scale back in about 2015 or so. So we've got a history of loving J.J. Watt and his grading and the whole thing. The stat line for this is why it's under fire, Sam.
Yeah.
Because they had a near identical stat line. Jordan Love and CJ Stroud, both 16 of 21. Mm-hmm. 2-yard difference.
Yep.
Love 272, Stroud 274. Both had 3 touchdowns. Both had 0 interceptions. Both had the exact passer rating of 157.2. And then the PFF grade is going to be different. Passing grade for Love of 91.8 and for Stroud 77.5. Mm-hmm. So, what are the differences here? I think the biggest differences would be starting with CJ Stroud had a turnover-worthy play in there. Jordan Love did not. We had a dropped interception. A pretty bad decision by Stroud. I think it was early in the game. I can double check. Threw into double coverage. Yes. That's the first thing. They both had 2 big-time throws, so there's not a huge difference there. I would say that the biggest difference is two of Stroud's 3 touchdowns were, beyond his control. We had a screen pass, and we had a 77-yard touchdown on a wide open pass in the flat. I think that's the easiest explanation. The two
just think of the
biggest discrepancies there.
Just think of the Brevin Jordan touchdown, right? Like that play alone. Forget everything else for a second. Just think of that one play. That is massively impacting CJ Stroud's overall statistical output from this game, and it was just Brevin Jordan outrunning the defense.
What was the final on? What was the yardage on that? Do you have
76?
So 76.
This is his only catch of the game. 1 for 1, 76 yards and a touchdown. He caught a ball, outran the entire defense as a tight end, and put a touchdown on the board. So one sort of difference between the two is yards after the catch. There's like a 60, 70-yard difference in yards after the catch between the two performances. And that was not one of those plays where you're like, look, quarterback determines yards after the catch with ball placement and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that was an expected routine pass that Brevin Jordan then did some pretty special things after the catch with.
So I'm just going to, I do this a lot just to paint a picture, right? Just to paint the picture. Let's pretend that pass, and PFF's grading what ifs. Let's pretend that pass goes for 10 yards.
Right.
Because him running through the defense had far more to do with the defense. And I want to answer the adjusting for competition thing too. I want to answer that in a minute because a lot of people have asked that question, adjusting for competition, because I think it's kind of baked in here, right? So let's just pretend that pass goes for 10 yards instead of 76. It would change, and CJ Stroud gets the interception. It's not dropped, it's actually an interception. We're just gonna flip 2 plays out of 21 for CJ Stroud. His stat line goes to 16 of 21 still, 210 yards instead of 270 whatever, 2 touchdowns instead of 3, and then 1 interception instead of 0. That drops his passer rating from 157 to 119. Still really good, right? But those 2 plays for Stroud, that happened where we're just like looking at the throw and the decision and saying, what does that deserve? What does that earn? Don't care what the result is. What does that earn? Change the results of those 2 plays just a little bit. Passer rating drops from 157 to 119. We're not having this discussion. Now, I want to also say, I'm also not like less impressed by CJ Stroud. I'm not looking at his 77 grade being like, oh man, it was just a pretty good performance by CJ Stroud. In his first playoff performance, he was unbelievable.
It's a good
he was
grade.
outstanding. He had so much good in there, but there was also these 2 hidden plays.
Right.
One that he got away with, one where the Browns defense was trash and Brevin Jordan was awesome, that helped the perception, that helped the narrative, that led to J.J. Watt saying, oh, same stat line, but different grades, you idiots. That's why that all happened.
Yeah, it was a good grade. It was a good performance from CJ Stroud. That Brevin Jordan play, that should have gained about 12 yards. If you look at the play, number one, it's completely uncovered. The Browns drop coverage on it entirely. It's not the kind of play where the quarterback's throw location determines yards after the catch. Actually, he made Brevin Jordan, he didn't make it. Jordan turned around to catch it facing Stroud and then had to turn back around, run down the field. And then 2 different Browns defenders are converging on him on the sideline, about to push him out for about a 12-yard gain, right? Instead, he just cuts back inside those 2 guys and then runs another 65 yards, 65 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. Like, that is a massive swing in this play, right? For something that was completely nothing to do with CJ Stroud, essentially. But from that point on, this is why the nerds use those expected models. The expected yardage on that play would have been like 12, right? And then Brevin Jordan makes that cut and then uses speed and turns 12 into 76 or whatever I said it was. So Stroud gets credit for that statistically, that extra yardage. So he gets 64 additional yards and a touchdown for nothing, for doing nothing on that play. That was a Brevin Jordan play, not a CJ Stroud play. And look, the argument is always, well, this happens to everybody. And it does. It happens to every quarterback in the NFL. But the question is how often, and what in this specific scenario, because it doesn't even itself out every game.
Right.
It doesn't even itself out every drive. There are swings to this. So it happened to Stroud there. Did it happen to Jordan Love in the game to the same extent? And the answer is no.
I mean, the biggest driver is the biggest driver of the difference in the grade is going to be the turnover-worthy play.
Yeah.
Because it was a bad one. It was really lowly graded.
And just, so...
It was a misread. The safety should have picked it off.
Yeah.
The corner had a chance to pick it off. I mean, that was the biggest thing.
And then Gordon, drew up their stat difference beyond the sticks. So targets that would have gained a first down at the catch point. Forget the yards after the catch stuff. Jordan Love went 9 for 11 with all 3 touchdowns being beyond the sticks, no turnover-worthy plays. Stroud went 5 for 11. Only one of his touchdowns was beyond the sticks, and then that turnover-worthy play in there as well. So
and even that skewed a little bit too, because Love had the wide open coverage bust to Luke Musgrave. But
what is generally the sort of, that play obviously is an exception, but what are generally the bigger impact, more difficult, throws, the throws that are going to get you some grading because they're moving the chains, they're having a much more positive impact in the offense and EPA, all those kinds of things, those were tilted more in Jordan Love's favor than they were CJ Stroud's on the same number of attempts.
One more play I'm going to add to this. So the 76-yarder that Stroud did have, he had a chance to have about a 60-yard touchdown that he missed. He had a receiver 10 yards behind the defense and overthrew him. Threw the ball far. That was a 58-yard pass from the line of scrimmage. He overthrew. He should have had another 60-yard touchdown. So when we were talking about the scheme in the Texans receivers, they had receivers behind the defense often in this one or running through the defense. It was a bad defensive performance by the Browns. And that's what I wanted to discuss too, because we had a lot of people ask us about Dak Prescott's grade and Tua's grades and the fact that they graded really well and why don't you adjust for competition? And I answer this like multiple times a year, but I think it's important to reiterate. I think there are elements of the competition being adjusted for within the grading. The Brevin Jordan example being the fact that CJ Stroud got a 76-yard touchdown for something that he didn't necessarily earn. So I think a lot of times you see the stats and you see the grades, and baked into that is the defensive performance. Now, the other part of that is I don't think it's bad to have a grade that's not adjusted for the defense. I think you just have to tell the story after the fact. So the idea that Dak Prescott graded at 92 against bad teams and 74 against good teams, I think it's okay to just not adjust for the competition for the actual grading of it or tweak the grades for it, but just go after the fact and say, okay, here are the facts. Here's what we've seen. We've seen better grades against bad teams and worse grades against good teams. That tells a similar story, even if it's not rolled into the actual grade. You can add the context it whichever way you want. So I think there's elements of the competition adjustment baked in there, whereas something like ESPN's QBR, they adjust for competition. I think there's some good with that, but what you have is a lot of times is a quarterback has a game in like week 1 and you think it's great, or it's like a guy has a good game against the Eagles early in the season, and as you get more information about the Eagles, or the Eagles start playing worse, you go back and say, oh, back in week 3 I guess that game wasn't that good. But it was. Like, it doesn't change the performance in week 3 just because you think that the Eagles are worse later in the season and that they've started to become terrible. So I don't like it, because teams play at different levels at different times, and going back and saying, oh, we thought this guy was really good in week 2, but now we know in week 18 that it was a bad team. So it changes his week 2 performance. Right. Or there were different players on the field, right? Usually the team adjustments don't account for, well, they had 7 players. Like the Dolphins defense that Mahomes played the other day was not the same Dolphins defense that was playing in week 10 or week 12. So adjusting for competition, I think, is this like always moving target, because do you do it at the team level? Do you do it based off the exact players who are on the field? Yeah. There's so many other variables there that I think it comes out in the wash.
Just think, I don't know that it necessarily comes out in the wash, but I think it's
true. Yeah, that's the wrong way to say it. Sorry, not comes out in the wash, but go ahead.
But I think it's definitely something that we prefer to leave to somebody to individually determine how much they should impact it. Because, like, for one thing, like, think about it, even just the player level, right? Let's say, any elite pass rusher, he goes up against a left tackle. Now, all right, let's adjust for that left tackle, right? So let's say somebody goes up against Trent Williams, right? Trent Williams, the best left tackle in the NFL. We adjust this grade by this amount. What happens if that guy destroys Trent Williams in the game? Now Trent Williams, the adjustment you're going to make for Trent Williams just changed, because his overall grade the body of work for Trent Williams is now different because that guy just changed it, right? So now, do you adjust it more because he just beat up on Trent Williams? Do you adjust it only up until that guy played Trent Williams? Like, I don't know how you do that. I don't know that there's a right answer to that. And I don't mean like I'm not math smart enough to make that work. I mean, I don't know that there's an answer to how that should function, as in, what's the theory for how that should work? Should you only adjust up until the point this player plays that guy? Does his performance against that guy affect every previous grade that guy, or every previous adjustment that you made for that player, because the body of work is now different? The whole thing is an absolute minefield of chaos. I think you're way better off saying, we're not adjusting for competition. There's no correct way of doing that. So you individually determine how much to adjust for the fact that he played Trent Williams and, all these other players. You figure it out, because you're going to have a different opinion to you. It's a different number for every person. Have at it. Make your own adjustment.
I mean, I'll say it a different way too. The Browns defense going into that game had great stats. And so you could say CJ Stroud did this against a great Browns defense that had, the EPA per play was best or second best in the league. The Browns defense was doing great things this year. On Saturday, was the Browns defense good? Now, was that because of CJ Stroud? Was it because of the play calling? Was it because of the playmakers? Whatever the reason, the Browns defense was terrible on Saturday. No matter what happened in the previous 17 games, they were terrible. they had receiver. They didn't tackle on a wide receiver screen. They let a guy run through the defense for 76 yards. They had a wide open receiver that should have been another 60-yarder. They had a wide open Nico Collins. One of Stroud's better throws was under pressure getting back to Nico Collins, who again, they made the catch. The throw was off a little bit because Stroud was getting hit. He made the catch, but that could have been another 40-yard touchdown in there. The Browns defense was terrible. So tell me how much the previous 17 games matter. Do you actually say, well, that was against a great Browns defense, it's more impressive? Or on that particular day, you could look at it and say, well, the defense was horrible. Doesn't matter how good they were previously. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Look, somebody said you should have JJ Watt on the podcast. We are open to it. You said maybe he's not looking to have a conversation. We'll see. We'll see him at the Super Bowl or something. Come on, join the podcast. Happy to have a chat with JJ.
JJ Watt's one of the greatest players that's ever played this game. I would imagine he knows as much about football as anybody that's ever been on this show. And if Watt is interested in talking about how PFF grading works, or even having a debate about, where we don't get it right, where he thinks it could be better, any of these things, only too happy to have JJ Watt on the podcast anytime he wants to talk through it. But that tweet suggested to me JJ Watt is not interested in an actual conversation about that. JJ Watt just wanted to bloviate about a grade he didn't like, which is generally how a lot of this works.
That is how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the grade's good for me, or my
right, I'll retweet it and talk about it and engage with it. Yeah. If it goes against something I believe, I'm going to say it sucks and these guys are just nerds sitting at a computer and they don't know what they're doing. So that was the tone of his tweet. If he in fact wants to engage and discuss it and get something productive out of it, welcome anytime he wants. But I very much doubt that's the case.
These conversations are getting me tired, Sam. They're getting me tired.
Mm-hmm.
Is 2024, though, bringing exciting and unexpected changes to your life? Maybe. Here's a secret weapon to help you face those challenges with more confidence. A great term life insurance policy. That's right. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to protect your family's financial future so you can focus on what's ahead, knowing your family is protected if something else unexpected happens. Fabric was designed by parents for parents to help you get a high-quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policy in less than 10 minutes. Fabric has flexible policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Get your personalized quote in just minutes and then apply when it's convenient for you. It's all online and on your schedule. You can go from start to covered in less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. And then to my prior point.
Smooth transition.
I don't think brothers can properly analyze their brothers.
No, I don't imagine they can. I would imagine brothers are amongst the most biased sources of information you can find when it comes to football.
The only person, unless it's Aaron Rodgers.
I'm sure
Aaron would give a proper assessment of Jordan.
I don't know that that's true. I think
it would be the other way.
The bias would just work in a different direction.
Yeah, so let's not do that.
Yeah.
We're not even, I'll respond to Donnie in the chat. This isn't even claiming that PFF system is perfect. This isn't even a perfection thing. It's like, all I'll say is that we're the consistent ones, I'll say, right? So we're just consistent with it. The bias is coming from everyone criticizing the system because they think they saw something different. Or they want something, they want Stroud and Love. They thought Stroud and Love were the same because the stats were the same. We're actually just consistent.
It's an absolute no-win proposition for us, right? If you engage with it and say, here's why the grading is what it is. The answer is what Donnie just said. Oh, PFF acts like their system is perfect. And number one, I don't think we do that. We talk all the time about potential flaws or issues or anything. I think we're fairly open on where blind spots in grading can be and where we might not be taken into account of something. For example, strength of competition, like we just talked about, right? That is absolutely an omission in the grading. Now, it's an omission by design for a reason we just talked about, but it means that the grading can't just be taken as player X has a higher grade than player Y, therefore player X was better than player Y. If player X ran a gauntlet of nightmare opposition and player Y didn't, those grades are going to be off, right? We acknowledge that, and that's why we say sometimes that our all-pro team is not just the top-graded player at every position for specifically that kind of reason, right? So I don't think we do that for a start. But as soon as you start to try and justify the grading or why it might be in this direction, it's like, oh man, PFF, they can't acknowledge they're failing. They're always just defending it. They're always acting like they're right, everyone else is wrong.
Just trying to explain why.
All I did last night when I replied to him is like, if you're just saying, this is what happens when an algorithm grades things, you don't understand what the grading is. So you're just taking a shot at nothing. Like, it's not a valid argument. Now, if you want to have a valid argument, we can sit down and talk through it, but your tweet demonstrated that you don't actually know what you're criticizing, right? That was my only problem with it. JJ Watt knows more football than either of us, but this is not a football conversation. This is a grading question. I believe that I'm pretty sure from his tweet, JJ Watt believes that a bunch of stats just get fed into a computer and grade X pops out for CJ Stroud. Clearly, that's not what happens, so what he's saying just doesn't make any sense. Now, let's get the hell out of this conversation, because it's awful.
Done with it. All right. We got no more use for this conversation. On to the bets. Explain what we've done here.
Okay. Well, we had a bunch of bets come in early in the year, again, last year. People betting things that would happen. We took the bets based off the idea that we don't believe any of them are going to happen, and some of them did happen. We were wrong.
Look at that scoreboard, though.
We were right a lot more than we were wrong, but we were wrong. And some of the ways we were wrong were painful for certain people.
So similar to last year, there were a lot of bets that came in about Geno Smith.
Yes.
And how Geno Smith was going to outperform expectations. And we took all those. Of course we'll take those. Of course Geno Smith isn't going to be all that good. And he was. And those were the ones that we lost the most. This year it was a lot more Jordan Love driven.
Yeah. So anyone that would bet big on Jordan Love, generally speaking, won their bet.
All right, you want to go through them?
Okay. Darren Futia said Minnesota will finish at least 3 wins above Detroit, and Detroit misses the playoffs. Neither one of those things happened.
Do we have a buzzer?
We don't.
Did we do this last year?
You did a pretty good job of it, so I think you are
I am not buzzering.
You are now the buzzer.
I'm not going to buzzer all 46 losses.
The controversy comes with our second bet. Zach Young said Tua would be the highest graded quarterback in the NFL, and New Zealand would beat Ireland in the quarterfinal of the Rugby World Cup. Well, one of those things definitively happened. Ireland lost to New Zealand in the quarterfinal of the World Cup again. Now, Tua was not the highest graded overall quarterback in the NFL, but he was the highest graded passing grade in the NFL. I feel like that's close enough that we can give it to him. Particularly because if we don't, it feels like I'm being bitter about the New Zealand loss that I'm definitely bitter about.
I mean, the other thing, too, is our grades default to include the playoffs, I think, because it's a grade, not a cumulative stat.
Regular season.
So theoretically, the season's still happening.
Yeah.
However, I think we give this to Zach Young. This is a bold prediction.
Uh-huh.
It's at least in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And plus, it brings back bad memories for you.
Very bad memories.
So
yes.
So I'm in.
Great. Perfect. There's another one of those later. Don't worry. We get to bracket the entire thing with painful Rugby World Cup memories. Larry Wilson said the 49ers will miss the playoffs. And a lot of stuff about drafting and blah, blah. Didn't happen.
Also mentioned Dallas figuring out Purdy.
Yeah. Didn't happen either. John Lawson, Buffalo and Philadelphia both failed to win the division. Yada, yada. Neither one of those things. One of them happened. Philly did fail. Buffalo got back with that last game against Miami.
Well, he said for a bonus, one misses the playoffs. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Also didn't happen, yeah. And we sort of said that I think you need the bonus for that because one of them not winning the division was entirely plausible.
Yeah, right.
Matt Anderson, Buffalo misses the playoffs. Again, didn't happen.
A lot of Buffalo hate.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Bogeyman 245. Browns defense leads the NFL in points per game, which I think happened, right? They win 12 games. They only won 11. And
they were not up there in points per game. No.
Okay. And they go to the AFC Championship game. So
a lot of close. I mean, a lot of
right. In the ballpark
decent,
things, but no. Dave, whoever the hell Dave is, the Patriots will win 5 or fewer games this year. Well, they won 4.
Won 4. Yeah.
So Dave wins.
Good job, Dave.
Jacob Donnelly, the Browns will win the Super Bowl. That's the one that we determined was Tyler's burner. And he'll buy a lawnmower 4.0. He was the guy that was asking for the promo code.
He emailed us looking for the promo code because he's picking up a lawnmower from Manscaped.
Chalk one up from Manscaped. We got a lawnmower 4.0 on the way. Ryan Kinsey said that Sam Howell will be a top 12 quarterback it doesn't really matter which statistic you look at.
In the NFC East.
Yeah, then maybe. But anything other than that, he's not a top 12 quarterback. Lawton Bauer said either Rodgers will have a worse PFF. I basically said that Rodgers lasted 5 snaps, so he loses. Basically said that Ritter.
Well, I don't know. Rodgers did have a lower grade than Ritter, didn't he?
Based off 5 snaps where he attempted like a pass?
Lawton Bauer was onto something.
You think? Where was Rodgers' actual grade by the end of this?
I bet they were similar. I mean, Rodgers had a negative. I think he got a
Aaron
negative.
Rodgers
on the
had a
sack.
39.4 grade based off one attempt.
It's a little lower than Ritter. I think we have to give this.
You think we have to give this, even though Desmond Ritter played 440 dropbacks for his 51.9 grade? I don't think that can count.
I mean, Rodgers had just as much opportunity to.
I feel like it's a void. It's not a win for us, but it's a void. It can't.
A void?
Yeah. Like the guy lasted 4 snaps. The bet's off.
All right.
I'm happy to take it off the victory board, but I don't feel that counts as a win. I don't feel like it can. It's not against the spirit. The bookies, every sports book out there would be like, that bet's off. We're not, it's off the board. It doesn't count.
No, that's fair. Okay, well, that's a fair enough standard. Yeah.
Alex Lolos, the Vikings will win 5 or fewer games. That didn't happen.
It was looking good when they were, 0-3?
Yeah, for a while it looked good. John Kilcoyne, that Kenny Pickett will be in the top 10 and Pittsburgh will make the AFC Championship game. Neither one of those things happened. There you go. Joseph Kaufman, Derek Carr will grade better than Justin Herbert.
Carr made a late push.
Yeah, it ended up closer than it looked for most of the season, but still no.
Man, you could have just replaced Carolina with Houston and maybe you would have had it here.
Yeah. Sage Carter, Carolina wins 11 or more games, makes the playoffs, and Bryce Young is Rookie of the Year. Any of the 3, and he'll take either the first 2. He says, he would get a tattoo of the podcast if he loses, and he lost hard. So,
where are you, Sage?
We're going to need
still listening?
some photographic evidence of that, I think.
He didn't say where he'd get the tattoo.
Well, it's difficult. Sometimes, like, getting a tattoo as a forfeit means more to some people than other people. You know what I mean? I don't have any tattoos. It would be a fairly significant step for me to get a tattoo if I lost a bet. Other people have all kinds of crap tattooed on them, and just one more thing.
You just kind of like carve it into the sleeve.
One more thing thrown in there. What does it matter? Like, you know what I mean? So maybe he's one of those people. I don't know. But if he is, like us, then that was a fairly significant loss for Sage. Simon Liang, the Barbarian. Dennis Gardeck will have 10+ sacks. Good for a couple of weeks.
We were rooting for that one all year. That was the one we checked in on every Monday.
Unfortunately, only 6 for the season. 4 of which came in the first few weeks of the season, and then just stopped getting sacks for the rest of the year.
Wasn't used to playing a full season as a starter.
That's true. Now, here where we start to run off the rails. Andrew Walters. Green Bay will have a better record than the New York Jets.
Nailed it.
That seemed relatively surprising in preseason.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Got it.
Happened. Now, it took Rodgers going down after 4 snaps to make it happen, but whatever. Mike Darbrand, Jordan Love would have a higher PFF grade than Aaron Rodgers. Well, as we've discussed before, void or not, I think we have to give him credit because Jordan Love had an insane grade. Julian Taddeo Bandi, Jordan Love would have a higher big-time throw rate than Aaron Rodgers. Well, Jordan Love's big-time throw rate.
Higher than 0.
It is. He had Canadian delicacies on the line. We weren't sure what those were, but either way, he won his bet, so it doesn't matter. All right, Dominic Schreiner. Mac Jones would have a higher PFF grade than Aaron Rodgers. Again, I feel like this is a void one because Mac Jones.
This was close.
It was. Where did he end up, Mac Jones?
He was in Ritter territory,
like
mid-50s,
40s. Because this one in particular, I feel like the spirit of the bet would be violated if he won because of that. Like, Jones was awful. We can't give him credit for that. So that's another.
That's a void.
Yeah, that's another void, which I don't have. I just have it in progress. But white means void, essentially. Ken Horner, who was the founder of this concept, the idea that we should have bets
Good
with
for
the fans.
Ken did we give him the lifetime subscription?
I don't know.
He probably should have one for coming up with this.
Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, would have a better PFF WAR than either Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter. Well, Mazi Smith was very bad this year, and Jalen Carter was very good, so that definitely didn't happen.
Here's your update. Jalen Carter in the NFC East. Jalen Carter, second in the NFC East in WAR for defensive interior defensive lineman. So Carter 0.29, Jordan Davis 0.09, and Mazi negative 0.02.
Not great for Mazi. No. There's apparently Dallas made him lose a bunch of weight and like weren't using him basically as a nose tackle, which is a bit weird for let's draft a big nose tackle to stop our run defense being garbage.
Yeah.
It's like now let's make him play at 295 and not really play nose tackle.
And you know how I like to listen to the press conferences and hear what they say about the players and their process and everything. Like they reiterated, hey, we have struggled against the run. We never would have made this move 10 years ago, but we think the interior defensive tackle is interior run defense is more important than ever, and all this stuff. And then he had a 31 grade against the run. Could not hold the point. Didn't do it well in the preseason. Didn't do well in the regular season.
But in fairness to him, holding the point becomes a lot more difficult when you weigh 295 versus 330 or whatever. Like,
don't understand that part of it.
Hank Lunsford, the Chargers will have a top 5 run defense this year. No, they improved. They were not top 5. Drake Kinney, Chicago makes the playoffs. They did not make the playoffs. Toby Howard, Cincinnati wins more games, 1, versus Kansas City than the AFC West. They are tied over Mahomes' career. Well, the AFC West definitely beat Mahomes this year, and Cincinnati did not, right?
What was this? Cincinnati wins more games
against Kansas City than the AFC West.
Yeah, that did not happen.
Because they were tied, like the Bengals had beaten Mahomes.
Yeah, Mahomes lost to both the Broncos. The Chiefs lost to both the Broncos and the Raiders. And, of course, the Bengals didn't beat the Chiefs. So,
right.
Yeah,
that was definitely didn't happen.
That was a bold one. That was
it was cool. I like that one. It was creative. I like that.
Creative.
And we said at the time that he would win that if it was a tie. Like, even if they just won the same number of games, that would be impressive enough as a call that he should win. But alas, they didn't. Eric Carson, Jahmyr Gibbs would have 600 or more receiving yards as a rookie.
I remember breaking this one down about how even if you're the most optimistic Jahmyr Gibbs fan, this is a challenging one. The league leader this year in receiving yards for running backs was Breece Hall with 591. So nobody even reached 600.
That was the thing. Only Eckler and McCaffrey last year were over that, and only like one guy basically in each of the last 2 years before that. Jahmyr Gibbs ended up with 316. So impressive year, not 600 plus. Nick Tavazzoli, A.J. Brown and Devontae would have more yards than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle combined, and Devontae leads the 4 in receiving yards. Well, Tyreek Hill led the 4 in receiving yards, so didn't win that one. I didn't actually add them up because I looked at that part and like, well, we won. But I didn't actually check if the yardage was close. You want to do that when I'm reading out other ones and see if that part hit?
Which part? The
A.J. Brown plus Devontae Smith equals more or less than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, yardage-wise.
I don't think that's true.
Right, I don't either, but I didn't actually run the number because we won the other part of the bet.
Oh, I got you.
What I'm saying is, right now, while I'm breaking down other bets, you could add those things up on a calculator on the fly, and then we could update people.
See what I can do here.
Yeah, perfect.
We're just going to look at regular season, I assume.
Yeah. Now, this one is still technically up for grabs, though I don't think it's going to win. Kyle Higgs says that either Brian Branch wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, obviously, that's been voted on, but it has not been awarded yet. Or Gibbs gets 800 rushing and 500 receiving. Well, as we said, he didn't hit that part because he only had 316 receiving. But Brian Branch theoretically could still win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I don't think he will, but it's at least still out there, so that bet is still TBD.
Hill and Waddle, they outperformed by about 300 yards.
Right.
A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith.
Edward Cornwell. Kirk wins MVP. Kansas City will be the 4 seed or lower, and Houston has a better record than Cleveland. He came quite close on 2 of those. Now, obviously, Kirk got hurt, so that one wasn't there. But Kansas City was the 3 seed, not the 4, and Houston was 1 win behind Cleveland, 11 versus 10. But that looked like it could come in for a while. Certainly the Texans won. Texans having more wins than Cleveland.
It got close.
But the Browns kept winning with their backup quarterbacks.
Quick pause here to tell our friends about Prize Picks.
Cool.
All right. So our friends over at Prize Picks, we have a lineup for this week. Eli's gone with, he said a non-research lineup right here.
Vibes lineup.
Straight vibes. We're going Christian McCaffrey more than a half rushing and receiving touchdown this weekend against the Packers. Dalton Kincaid more than 39.5 receiving yards for the Bills. And then Josh Allen more than 43.5 rushing yards. That's a huge rushing yard number, isn't it?
Can you imagine
43.5. More.
Imagine if the McCaffrey one was the one that didn't come in for Eli.
I know.
Particularly because Prize Picks has an injury insurance policy, so it would require somehow him getting less than a yard without being injured.
No, his is touchdowns.
Oh, sorry, a touchdown.
That's not one
without
of those,
being injured.
It's not one of those yard adjustments. It's not like the time.
I was wondering what the little the smiley thing is.
It's not like that time that Brett Coleman had more than a half receiving yard for George Pickens, who finished with -1 receiving yard.
That was rough.
Yeah. But Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Instead of battling thousands of players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than a 2 to 6 player stat projection and watch the winnings roll in. You play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz. You could do that. Find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries of some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community every single week. And as Sam mentioned, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so the entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for football and basketball games, you have a player that exits the game in the first half, does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/PFFNFL. Use the code PFFNFL for your first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/PFFNFL. Use the code PFFNFL, and you get a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, man. Back to the bets.
Back to the bets. Okay, Jonathan West, Anthony Richardson is top 12 thanks to Shane Steichen having honed the plan he already created with Jalen Hurts. Well, Richardson got hurt, so it didn't really make it that far. Sheldon Allen, Desmond Ridder would have 10 or more rushing touchdowns. Got a few, but not 10. Jacob Lueck, Luke Musgrave winning Rookie of the Year. Now, technically, this one's open as well, but with CJ Stroud having the year he had and Puka Nacua having the year he had, I felt like that was conclusive enough that we can call this a win for us, even though theoretically Luke Musgrave could still win Rookie of the Year. I just find it very unlikely that happens. Jason White, Brock Purdy will finish with a better PFF grade than any quarterback from the 2021 draft class. So that's the Trevor Lawrence, et cetera, draft class, which it turns out might have been garbage, despite everybody liking all 5 of the quarterbacks at the top of that draft. Meanwhile, Purdy ends up having a campaign that put him very close to MVP and pushed him into the top 5, I think, in PFF grading. So
he's at least top 6 or 7.
Right.
Yeah, a reminder, the 2021 NFL draft class, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson.
4 overall for
Purdy? Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Coming out of that first, Davis Mills, but those first rounders, Purdy outgraded all of them. And only Trey Lance of that group made it to the playoffs.
Yeah. Who's now the only, he's the only one from the class as well that's made it to the playoffs every year of his career.
See? Justified.
I mean,
Justified at 3 overall.
If you think wins are a QB stat, Trey Lance is your guy.
Just being on the team.
The man's getting you to the playoffs every year.
Jimmy Garoppolo is a 2-time Super Bowl champion.
That's true.
By that measure.
Anyway, so the Brock Purdy thing was a good shout. He did. Kevin Enright, the Seattle Seahawks will make the NFC Championship game. Nope. Bears will win the NFC North. Nope. And Justin Fields would have 4,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards. That didn't happen either.
Also,
right?
no. Yeah.
So
a bold one, though.
0 for 3. Jordan Smith, the Rams would have a better record than the Seahawks this year. Somebody posted that. The guy, I assume, the person who's Jordan Smith, posted it in the Discord as like, look, behold.
Jordan nailed it, man. I mean, this was, again, let's remember what was going on before the season.
We had coffee on the line on that one. We didn't win it.
Coffee in it for us.
Damn it.
Yeah, of course we accepted that. But at the time, the Rams, they weren't just in transition. It looked like full rebuild mode. But, by the way, you still had Stafford, and you still had Donald, and you still had Kupp.
That is one that was certainly Like closer than you might have been, closer than the average in the bets, but there was coffee in it for us, so we definitely took it.
Oh yeah,
Like, like we would have taken the, I don't know, whatever other crazy one that, like the Patriots winning 5 or fewer. We'd have taken that whatever. But, the Rams versus the Seahawks, Seahawks are better, but it's close.
but we can win coffee.
Yeah, but coffee's on the line, so we're absolutely
Have to
accepting
do it. So, but congrats to Jordan for that. He also mentioned best quarterback, receiver, coach, and pass rusher, and obviously he knew that they had the best receiver, Puka Nacua.
The guy that had the guy that was close with the Houston bet, by the way, like he had he apparently was betting $100 worth of coffee for each one of those and went over 3. So theoretically, if we're holding the man to his bet, he owes us $300 worth of coffee.
Who sent us the coffee already? We got coffee that was the Kirk Cousins MVP one,
I've done
right?
a bad track of keeping track of all this. I don't know.
If you owe us coffee, make sure you send it in.
Send it in. It's an honor system.
I'm running low on the Kirk Cousins failed MVP coffee, guys. His contribution.
It's an honor system. Send in whatever you owe us. We're not really paying attention.
Nespresso Virtuo, whatever it is. Yeah, Virtuo.
You now want to specify the coffee that they
I'm just
send
saying, Nespresso's been a life changer for me.
Man, if we got $150 worth of Nespresso.
That'd be like 6 coffees.
Okay, Liam Fisher. Jalen Carter will lead all defensive tackles in sacks. Only DeForest Buckner and Aaron Donald have had 6 or more in the last decade as a rookie. Well,
he spelled Kobe Turner wrong.
Yeah, a rookie did have 6 or more. It just and Carter did as well, right? He had 7, 6. Anyway, point being, Jalen Carter didn't even end up leading all rookies in sacks, let alone all interior defenders, all defensive tackles. Kobe Turner had 11 after his incredible second half of the season. Did Carter end up with 6 or 7? I'm trying to get the site to load before I can find that out. Talk amongst yourselves. It'll fire right up here any second now. Here we go.
I got caught up in a Twitter conversation while you're doing that. It's not good timing.
Just great podcasting. It's top to bottom. Where the hell is he? Okay,
let's see.
Rookies.
Rookies.
Have to go rookies now. Jalen Carter, 7. Okay, so he had
by
7.
our numbers. Yeah.
Yes, by our numbers.
We have 12 for Kobe Turner, including the playoff here.
Including the playoff. I'm only going regular season. Kobe Turner had 11, as did Ed Oliver, and then Chris Jones and Justin Madubuike each had 14 in the regular season. So, alas, it was a difficult task for Jalen Carter, even though he started the season on fire. And generally speaking, I mean, DeForest Buckner and Aaron Donald, he now joins them as rookies to have 7 or 6 or more in their rookie season.
And the great Kobe Turner.
Right. So it was an impressive performance by Jalen Carter, but not quite enough to put him into that kind of air. Richie Ames, Deshaun Watson would be top 10, and the Steelers would be bad of some description. Neither one of those things really happened. So, hell. Max E., Daniel Jones enthusiast. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley would rush for 1,000 or more yards. That one was always optimistic.
I wonder if Max E. is still a Daniel Jones enthusiast.
I don't know. Yeah.
Max, let us know. Are you still enthusiastic about Daniel Jones heading into 2024?
Now, this one is still open, still up for it's possible, especially after last year. Jordan Peller. Sam Darnold would be the 49ers quarterback in the NFC Championship game. Now, the 49ers absolutely look like they're heading to the NFC Championship game, and all it takes is an injury to Brock Purdy, and Darnold's the guy.
Still on the table. We have potential coffee on the table as well, so we're not rooting for things, but
we've already seen Darnold come in when Brock Purdy got hurt and got sat down. All it takes, one shot to Brock Purdy, and the man's not the most careful of quarterbacks in terms of the hits he takes, so it's still out there. Austin Callahan was another Bears to win the NFC North one that obviously didn't come through. Now, he has previously donated bags of food to a local animal shelter and had that was his forfeit in there. So hopefully that will be on the way from Austin. Maximilian Thomas said that Steve beat Sam in game picks this year. Remember, last year you were historically wretched at game picks.
I got to tally them up. This includes the playoffs, though. This will take us through the Super Bowl.
Just based on the sporadic updates you gave me, I assume this is very much in your favor.
No, it's close.
Really?
I may have only updated you on weeks where you were trash.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, I'd send you a message on a Sunday night like, I have 9, Harry has 9, and you have 4. Yeah.
Right. I'm under the impression that I am like way behind either of you.
Halfway through the season, I put a tally out there, and we were within 3 games of each other.
Okay.
So I think it's close.
All right. So that one, we need to wait. A, we need to wait for the playoffs to finish, and B, you need to add up numbers.
Super Bowl week, we'll know. We'll let you know from Radio Row, maybe.
Condor Gulesh. Zay Flowers will be the number 1 graded rookie wide receiver. That didn't happen.
He did not know Puka Nacua was here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were several. I think he was number 7 or something. So, which I think was where I ranked him, right? Heading into the.
Stop it.
I'm just saying. 7th in grade. I think he was my 7th ranked wide receiver.
Rookie wide receiver grades. Let's see. During the regular season, Puka Nacua, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Dontavian Wicks, then Zay Flowers at 5. Right just ahead of Jaden Reed, Demario Douglas.
Oh, you've got, Wait, what? Okay.
Do we need a filter?
Grade. I have receiving grade on, and a receiving grade.
Overall grade.
Yeah. Receiving, he drops another 2
Puka,
spots.
Rashee, Tank, Wicks, Flowers 5.
Yeah. Receiving, he drops behind Reed and Douglas.
Okay.
That's what I was looking at.
Well,
either way, you didn't win.
You're not giving him credit for his rushing and
I'm not.
Fumble grade.
No.
Not fumbling.
That's true. Anyway, apparently there was coffee on the line there, so, you know what to do. John K. Daniel Jones will be the best graded quarterback in the NFC.
Did not happen.
No, didn't happen hard. Daniel Jones was not the best graded quarterback in the New York Giants, let alone the NFC. He wasn't even the second best graded quarterback of the Giants, right? Didn't Cutlets end up with a better grade?
Probably. Oh, Cutlets. I want some Cutlets.
Yeah. I don't think anybody bet Cutlet. Maybe next year there'll be a bet involving
We need more Tommy
Cutlets.
DeVito. Tommy DeVito's in the NFC Championship type of bets.
Ooh, so if you look at passing grade, Daniel Jones was 3 of 3 for the Giants. If you look at overall grade, he does, however, leap Cutlets.
He's a runner. Yeah.
Because of the rushing ability. Cutlets doesn't bring the Daniel Jones level of rushing threat to the table. Oh, dear. Michael Araklian. Eagles missed the playoffs. Didn't happen. They snuck in. Now they should have missed the playoffs.
I almost want to give this to him.
Just because of the collapse?
They no-showed on Monday night. They didn't actually show up to the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, they made the playoffs. Whether they showed up to it or not is a different debate.
I understand what the bet was, but it wasn't actually close. They made the playoffs pretty easily.
Right. They had it locked in.
Boy, did they collapse.
I mean, they went 10-1. It was going to be difficult to miss the playoffs from that point.
Yeah.
Again, theoretically, there was coffee on the line, so Jeremy Lansdowne somehow leads the NFC East in passing yards. That one, so as much as he tailed off and was bad for a lot of the season, I was like, well, he was leading the league by a mile in attempts. So how close was he in yardage? Ultimately, not that close.
He had 3,945 yards. That was 12th in the league.
Right, whereas Dak ended
despite ranking first in attempts.
Right, whereas Dak ended up with 4,500 passing yards. So it actually didn't end up that close.
There was a point where it looked like it was feasible because he just kept dropping back a million times.
Lewis Teacher. This one was, I had to do math for this one. So his thing was that Cincinnati, Jacksonville, the Chargers, and Buffalo would have fewer wins combined than Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Denver, and New England. They didn't.
The reasoning here was that coaching was more important than QBs.
Yes.
So he was banking on Mike Vrabel, Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton, and Bill Belichick to outperform the teams that have perceived better quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the problem he had was that, there was the Patriots who only won 4 games and then no really good team from that side of things. So it ended up not even that close.
Lewis wanted, if he had pulled this off, he wanted a signed Steve baseball jersey.
Yeah.
If he won. Now, I don't own a baseball jersey that I can just, sign and ship.
Yeah.
But if you send me a baseball jersey, I will sign it and send it back.
Do you think
send a self-addressed stamped envelope?
Wow, I haven't heard that in a long time.
And I will throw it into the envelope and throw it back.
Do Steve Palazzolo baseball jerseys exist just out on the marketplace? Is that a thing somebody can buy?
Almost certainly no chance.
Because somebody found a stack of your baseball cards somewhere on eBay.
There are card collectors who continue to pepper us. I have a guy that Facebook messages me every few months asking for autographs.
Yeah.
And some people send me cards. I got mailed cards a couple weeks ago, maybe from the same guy. But there are card collectors who send us stuff, still looking for it. Like they got to complete their '08 Connecticut Defenders set or whatever it might be. I had one fan one time bring a jersey to a game. Don't know where he found it. Don't know where he got it.
Yeah.
But he brought a jersey to me to sign at a game. He was a big fan of mine. That was it. I've got, so in my career, I think I have 1 or 2 baseball fans. I think it was 2 baseball fans and 3 podcast fans that I've run into.
Okay.
So we're up to 5
Combined.
Palazzolo fans in
impressive.
the course of my career between baseball and podcasting.
So I assume if he wants the jersey, he's going to have to custom make it himself. And
Figure out how to
and
get a
send
custom.
it to
Yeah, I don't know which team you would choose, but yeah, if you want to send me a jersey, I'll sign it and ship it
What
back.
if it's like one of those, you know,
On PFF.
the Donna Kelsey jersey that's like split down the middle, but yours is just like a quilt. It's like patchwork with just a
great.
shoulder and a left chest.
like
and
a Josh McCown or
Right.
a
Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ben Grethel said that Irv Smith would have 800 or more receiving yards and 7+ touchdowns, effectively doubling the production of the last 2 tight ends that have played in Cincinnati.
I liked this one, and another one that I think we accepted because Coffee was on the line.
Yeah. He didn't come close. He had like 150 yards and was just nowhere. Again, Irv Smith gets hurt a lot. And
Nespresso Odacchio is my favorite. Odacchio.
yeah.
If you know, those are the blue ones, the blue pods.
Right. Got it.
I'm just saying, if you've lost a bet and you need to send us coffee.
Darren McGuire, Dan Whelan, that's the Green Bay punter who is Irish, first Irish-born punter or Irish-born player to play in the NFL since like the 80s, would have a top 5 PFF punting grade, 8th. Came pretty close.
I'm going to go to the punting page for the first time this season. Let's
First
see what
time
it
ever.
looks like.
Yeah, he was 8th. So he had a good season, and he's still going, by the way.
73.9 punting grade.
Right.
He's no Bradley Pinion.
No.
Number 1 this year for the Falcons.
And the man's still swinging in the postseason. So I guess theoretically, this shit. Let's keep
Look
this
at
open.
Brian Anger justifying his 3rd-round grade with a great season.
Let's
by the
keep
way.
this one open because theoretically, this could still come in if he has an amazing postseason run. I guess.
So he could have to jump into the top 5. Can anybody drop? No.
No. So he's got to do it all by himself.
All the punters ahead of him have been eliminated.
Okay. So look, Daniel Whelan, if he has a great postseason, the Packers go on a run, he could still get himself up to the top 5, and then Darren McGuire would win. So let's rework that one to being still open. Adam Wells, Trey Lance starts more games for Dallas than Sam Darnold does for San Francisco. Well, no.
0-0.
Yeah. And now that only one of them is still playing, it can't win.
That is a loss. Yep.
Nicholas Caratura. The Giants would finish in the top half in EPA per play or PFF grade. The Giants were terrible this year.
Or DVOA.
Well, he suggested DVOA, and we nixed that as a foreign concept at PFF, as a different company. He said he would donate $20 to the Humane Society if we took the bet, let alone won it. So hopefully that went to the Humane Society.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Andrew Kidd, the Browns will finish with a top 5 draft pick. No, didn't happen. They were, in fact, quite good until the playoffs, and then they melted down. Maxim Jansen, Michael Thomas finishes top 3 in receptions this year with his comeback after years of injuries. How many catches did Michael Thomas end up with?
I don't know. I thought he'd be.
I mean, he played quite a bit.
I thought he'd be one of the more important players in the league this year.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
He ended up with 63 targets and 39 receptions based off 10 games worth of play. So
Still battling injuries and everything.
at least featured in a way that he hasn't really in the last couple of years, but did not jump back to being Michael Thomas. Jacob Lade, 3 out of the 4 AFC North teams finished with the same record. Now, all 4 of the teams in that division had a winning record, but each one of them, I think, had a different record. So
9-8, 10-7,
11-6 for the Browns.
11-6,
And then 12 the Ravens.
13-4
13.
for the Ravens.
So different record for each one, but all
Should
4
have said they all finished with winning records. Then you would have won.
Then you would have won. Yeah. Matthew Bodner. Oh no, hang on. I've jumped
DeYoung.
one.
Matthew DeYoung.
Matthew DeYoung. The Chargers would have a top 5 offensive line in PFF rankings in both run blocking and pass blocking. Well, they finished, I think, 16th in overall PFF offensive line ranking, and that didn't happen.
I just have the team, not offensive line, pass blocking, and run blocking grades handy right now. Chargers finished 13th in pass blocking and much lower
Yeah.
in run blocking.
It
Last.
was last.
Dead last.
Yeah, so not particularly close on that one. Now, Matthew Bodnar, Dak gets benched. Didn't happen.
I love the ones where there's just like a quarterback that people love and a quarterback that people hate, all in the same thing.
Right.
Dak's going to be great, or Dak's going to just straight up get benched.
Daniel Jones is going to be a superstar.
Yeah, Daniel Jones is going to be a superstar. Daniel Jones is going to get benched.
Daniel Jones, in fact, is going to look like ass, even compared with other bad quarterbacks on the same team. Joe Washington, Mac Jones would have a higher PFF grade than Aaron Rodgers. Now, again, I feel like this is void. I feel like it's void. The Rodgers bets. The only time the Rodgers bet is not void is where spiritually I feel like we should reward a Jordan Love faith-based bet because he was amazing this year, at least certainly in the second half of the year.
But the trashing Rodgers ones, we
but
can't.
the ones where it's like Rodgers, the Jets-Rodgers thing will just be it won't work because Rodgers is terrible. I can't.
Well, how about that? We could roll it over. We could roll it over to next year.
We could.
What would Prize Picks do?
What would Prize Picks do?
They would negate it or something. We could roll
it
over.
They have an injury insurance policy.
Yeah.
If your player leaves the game in the first 5 snaps and does not return for the remaining 1,000 snaps, your player is rebooted.
Aaron Rodgers left in the first half of the season.
Yeah.
In the first half of the first half
he
of the quarter.
He did not return. He threatened to, but did not come back.
Did not return.
He was active, but he did not return.
He was very active.
Yeah.
Every week on McAfee's
in
show.
Several different ways.
And I would say this might roll over to next year if you accept.
So we, in fact, reboot those Rodgers bets.
Rebooted for 2024.
Got it. Nolan Olszewski, Mike Evans misses 1,000 yards for the first time in his career.
Did not happen.
He got it again. Metronomic Mike Evans got his 1,000 yards. Danny Glasser. Harry will finish with a better record in picks than Sam. Any number is acceptable.
Harry, I gotta look up his picks. I gotta look up Harry's picks.
Yeah.
So that's still in progress.
That's another one that's still in progress.
Super Bowl week, we'll have the announcement.
And then the final and most painful one. The Arizona Cardinals will win more games this season than Ireland at the Rugby World Cup. Now, at the time, I calculated that this would almost certainly require Ireland progressing past the quarterfinal stage, which they did not do. So Arizona won 4 games and Ireland won 3. Their 3 pool games and then lost their 4th.
Wow, what a bet.
And they almost certainly would have won the 5th as well had they made it past the 4th. So it's literally that game was the difference, as was almost certainly calculated in a sick Saw-esque way of trapping me in this hell by Matt Bowen.
So
but he
of
wins.
Our 8 losses this year now, 2 of them are based off of Ireland losing
failing
New Zealand.
the one game that they were always destined to fail in the quarterfinal of the Rugby World Cup. Yes, that is the case.
I appreciate your optimism at the beginning of the season, though.
I wasn't even necessarily optimistic about it. I just,
You had to take it.
Yeah.
Ouch, that one hurts.
Yeah.
Also because we thought Arizona might win 2 games anyway. They ended up with 4.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up with at least a win, maybe more than we thought they would get. But it was always coming down to that one quarterfinal game. And alas, that went against me again. So that's a bit of a kick to the balls.
It's a good way to finish this. I love it. So that was fun, man. That was the second year we've done this. And it's just it's a really fun preseason episode because everybody can kind of put their money where their mouth is, come up with some fun takes and picks, and we get to track them and see how we did. 8 people won.
Yeah. Technically, by the way, Darnold did in fact start a game this year. He got the Week 18 start.
Oh, he did. That's right.
Either way,
Darnold wins.
Lance didn't, so the bet doesn't win.
Yeah, that one's over.
Right.
We already said. Yeah, you're right. We screwed that up. Good stuff, man. That was fun.
Yeah.
We have anything else we want to do today?
Do we have any?
Do you want to just ramble and talk? Do we have,
just ramble. Oh, we haven't pushed people to vote for us again.
Yeah, people got to vote. I did it on my phone yesterday, so I voted for.
We're gonna lose this vote because we are so bad at reminding people to go and vote for us.
You need to. Everybody should tell 10 friends. It's like a chain letter. Tell 10 friends to vote for us.
And if you don't, bad things will happen to you.
Yeah.
7 years of bad luck.
Don't break the chain.
Yeah.
Don't break the chain. PFF NFL podcast is a finalist for the Best American Football Podcast. We need this award. We need this award to just prove to management that we're doing good stuff over here. We need to prove to upper management over here at PFF to respect.
It's validation. It's validation. You know, people like the work should be its own reward, but sometimes you need an award, right? Now this one we stole.
We stole an award last year And now we're up for we want a real one. We
Right.
want to replace this stolen one.
with a real earned award.
Yeah.
So we need your help to go vote for us. You will find the link to go vote either in the description of the show, or it is still my pinned tweet at PFF_Sam for a direct link to go and do it. You confirmed that apparently they fixed the phone thing, so you can do it from your phone now. You can, in fact, vote from your phone. It doesn't have to be desktop.
Yeah, I voted for us twice now, so I've done it from my desktop and on my phone. I did it on the phone yesterday. It's pretty easy to do, right? You scroll down, click the thumbs up. You just got to put in an email address. You don't have to sign up for the newsletter necessarily. Yeah. Boom, you're in.
But previously, it didn't work on the phone. You had to do it by desktop.
It was clunky on the phone.
Now
it's good now, though.
Now
Go down,
works.
give us that vote, please. We love it.
So, yes, we would appreciate any and all votes because we would like to win an official award.
Drake Holiday wants us to ramble and talk about football. There are some questions in the chat.
Oh,
so.
we didn't get your – I had to go. I had to go on British television last night to talk about the transition of Louis Rees-Zammit to the NFL, the International Player Pathway Program. And they emailed in looking for either one of us, but you didn't answer. So I had to take it on your behalf.
Oh, you're like the foremost expert. This is finally.
I feel like the people would like to know what your take on it is.
I've already seen some of your takes, so I don't want to.
Just take them. Come on. What is your take? What do you think?
I think it's a different level of physicality.
Okay.
That you have to adjust to.
See, that wasn't my take. I didn't have that.
It's a different level of physicality. Skill set wise, there's some running back wide receiver hybrid in there.
Okay.
So it's probably
Cordero Patterson style. That might be. We were struggling to come up with a similarly shaped.
I want to see some highlights. Let me see some highlights. But I think you probably have to lean running back first. It's the easiest position to adjust to. Take a handoff, run to space, right? Just go run, and then the nuances of the passing game will have to. You have to get there.
Yeah, we were trying to come up with because what's different about him relative to some of the other guys that have tried to make the switch is he's much more wide receiver shaped than running back shaped. Christian Wade previously was, I forget what his dimensions are, but he's much shorter, much stockier. Rees-Zammit is 6'3", 200-ish, right? The listing ranges, but let's call him 200.
Is he a legit 6'3"?
Yeah. We were struggling to come up with comps for a running back that was 6'3", 200. You find running backs that are 6'3", but the ones that are 220 whatever plus. You don't find guys that are 6'3", 200 or 195.
Yeah. Even like Jalen Hurd, if you remember, Tennessee running back turned slot receiver at Baylor, turned 49ers draft pick.
Right.
Was a 6'4", maybe taller, 6'4", maybe 215-pound running back. And he had to move to receiver because that even felt slight and maybe too high cut for running back.
And a guy, Cordero Patterson, who just jumped to mind because you were talking about receiver running back hybrids. I mean, he's 6'2", so even he's shorter, but he's 220. Like, he's big. So either Rees-Zammit needs to find 20 or 25 pounds worth of muscle to play running back, or we're talking about a different position, which is likely, I would think, wide receiver, but probably more realistically, some form of special teams ace, return man / gunner.
The scary thing about receiver, and sometimes it sounds easy, like just throw the athlete out there. There is so much nuance to the receiver position. And, we joked about like Jalen Reagor a few weeks ago about how often he's not on the same page as the quarterback. And when you're not on the same page, that costs you a turnover. That is an interception.
Yeah.
That is a difficult position.
It is. It's difficult because, Jalen Reagor is a great example because athletically he's elite. I mean, he had really good numbers workout-wise, and yet he's one of the worst receivers in the NFL. So you're like, okay, Rees-Zammit has legit speed. He's got like a 10.4 something 100-meter time, which is fast. It's not, it's not like Olympic caliber or anything, but it's pretty damn quick. So he's got like legit speed. But is he faster than Jalen Reagor? Like, at the thing that we're saying he's great at, is he even better at that than a guy like Jalen Reagor? Probably not, and has no starting point from learning wide receiver. Now, the counter to that is, if you listen to Jordan Mailata talk about what he knew before he sort of went in this direction, the International Pathway Program, he knew nothing, like zero, absolutely nothing. And in the course of this like boot camp to learn football, went from there to being close enough that a guy like somebody like the Eagles, A, drafted him, and B, then thought he could become the player he's become, and he's now, a $65 million contract type of guy. So you can get from a starting point of zero to a sophisticated understanding of the game enough to be able to play at that kind of level, including all the nuances. I just don't know how likely that is to happen when you consider how important that is.
It's really shocking that someone like Mailata can do that, because like in baseball, they will take a shortstop or an outfielder who has a great arm and just, when they can't hit anymore, just try to make him a pitcher. And those transitions actually work. And there's a lot of like nuance and detail to pitching, but at the end of the day, if a guy doesn't have bad habits, just putting him on the mound and saying, hey, go throw fast, could work.
Right.
And it does with pitchers. I'm shocked that it could work at something like offensive tackle, that is not just like, hey, go be an athlete, because there is so much technique, and it is way more technique driven even than something like pitching, which is technique driven, but it's also like more natural athleticism, where I think offensive tackle is both. So I think that's even more impressive that Mailata was able to do that. And I would say, like, again, receiver, it would be a challenge, but a running back position, you could probably just go be an athlete, run to space.
Right. That's why I think
get
generally,
past, as you're learning, not that there's not nuances to the position, but as you're learning.
I mean, there are running backs in the NFL that I don't think have a great understanding of, blocking schemes and all the things that are happening around them, but they understand enough to, like, they're good enough athletes and good enough instincts to just find a gap and make positive plays that way. And if they hit the wrong gap, it, generally speaking, doesn't matter. Like, you might occasionally draw a holding penalty because you hit the wrong gap and the offensive lineman's leverage is wrong and blah, blah, blah. But generally speaking, there's no consequences to you sort of messing up other than you're not productive, right? Whereas if a wide receiver messes up, the quarterback could throw an interception because you messed up and he's on a different page to you, and that actually has real consequences. So I do think it's definitely more of a problem, the mental side of things. But I think somebody like Mailata shows that you can get from nowhere to like NFL level of understanding of what you're doing. It's just probably not that easy. Now the question becomes, can you do that and learn all the technique and the intricacies of the position, all that kind of stuff? And that just feels unlikely. I think the most likely scenario for him is he ends up as a special teams sort of project plus wide receiver gimmick, and he ends up on a practice squad for a year because they get the sort of the bonus spot, right? They get the exemption so they can carry him on a practice squad. He'll be in somebody's training camp. He'll get cut. He'll go through waivers. He'll end up on the practice squad as the exempt player, and then probably doesn't go any further than that, but who knows?
I did want to answer a question in the chat about Gardner Minshew. There's a couple questions about ESPN's QBR and our grading and what the differences are, and then why a guy like Gardner Minshew is way lower for us than he is QBR. I can't speak directly to QBR, but I can tell you what I know about QBR. It focuses on air yards. So air yards are valued. Rushing yards are valued. It's tied to EPA. So if you have like the Luke Musgrave completion by Jordan Love, busted coverage, probably 30 air yards or whatever. Right. I think they're just going to look at that and say that's 30 air yards, that's good, and they're not going to differentiate between, say, that pass and the touchdown that Jordan Love threw, which was fading away, hitting a dude perfectly in stride. Those might show up similar in that grading system. Whereas ours is going to say, well, the Jordan Love touchdown where he faded away and put the ball right head high under pressure was better than the busted coverage 30 yards, air yards.
Ironically, ESPN is actually a better target of the criticism of, well, this is what happens when you let a computer grade football, because their win rate stuff, the pass blocking, pass rushing stuff,
is literally a computer.
Is algorithmic based off the tracking data, as I think is QBR, right? There's no like human.
The humans go in and they adjust. They do look at drops. They do chart drops and everything. Okay. But again, my understanding here, and I know Brian Burke, who made it, and Seth Walder, who does a lot of the writing about it. I interact with those guys; they're colleagues. I'm pretty sure when they look at drops, they don't do it the same way we do. They don't assign the same credit for the throw.
Right.
I think they might just negate the negative part of the throw.
Generally speaking, their data stuff, whether it's QBR, whether it's win rate stuff, is all algorithmic. It's
the win rate stuff is algorithmic because that's taking tracking data.
Right.
And using an algorithm. The QBR is using some level of human element to, like, is this a drop, is it not? But that would be
only
the other.
Yeah, but only in terms of like it's just folding in some of the charting that is done
Correct.
by humans, but it's the thing itself is automated and algorithmic.
But an air yard is an air yard.
Right.
A yak is yak. Rushing yards are rushing yards, whether the defense completely busted or not, whatever it might be. So those are a couple of things. The other part I would say is, again, we look at Minshew had a high turnover-worthy play rate. It got better as the year went on, but he only had 9 picks, right? He had a couple fumbles in there. But the turnover-worthy plays, we look at the throw, we will give you the minus 1.5. We'll give you a bad play, even if it's a dropped interception. Again, ESPN might say that was a dropped interception, that that's a negative, but they're not saying that should have been an interception. Let's downgrade him what he should have been. So ESPN's more result-driven. They're going to look more, they're going to pull the result more from the box score or the EPA, the actual EPA on the play, even if it had nothing to do with the quarterback. Well, we're going to look more at the quarterback. And I think that's why at the end of the day, the PFF grade is more consistent year to year. So that's one. And the Minshew thing, I can't speak to more specifics there. I think he had some rushing value in there that ESPN weighs highly. And again, I think he just got away with a bunch of turnover-worthy plays that we dock him for that they maybe didn't.
Walt in the chat says some crazy things, and I think generally speaking, he gets a disproportionate amount of airtime on the show than maybe he deserves. But every now and again, he comes up with an absolute banger. And according to Walt, ESPN's been all downhill since they fired Mike Ditka. That was the watershed moment.
That's true.
They got rid of Mike. Since then,
since Ditka,
it's just been heading down. It's been heading south.
Just like the Bears. I mean, you get rid of Ditka, it's never good.
It's been heading rough. Heading rough.
Anything else we want to ramble about?
I don't think so. You want to just Q&A session with the chat? Like, what are you aiming to get to here?
I got to get home. My wife's got an appointment she's got to get to. I can't remember what time it is, though.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, then
I got a few minutes. I got a few minutes for Q&A.
Yeah. I don't know how much
Drake
Q&A.
Holiday wants us to ramble and talk about football. Bill Belichick, how weird was that seeing that he interviewed for a head coaching job with the Falcons?
But I mean, they termed it that because that's like that's just the parlance now, but it just sounded like him and Arthur Blank kind of had a conversation, and Bill pitched him some general ideas, and then they were like, all right, let's circle back later. It didn't feel like they didn't sit him down for like an official, it didn't sound like a standard interview,
Christian asked, if you start a franchise tomorrow, are you taking Stroud or Love?
Damn. I don't know. I mean, Love, I think, has shown better play at this point. On the other hand, he's had 3 years sitting on the bench and learning, whereas Stroud is day one out of the box.
Yeah, so this is where, if last week, Jordan Love graded better than CJ Stroud. And for the season, Love was higher than Stroud, right? I would probably take Stroud. I mean, just right now, in first instinct, I would take Stroud.
Yeah.
Because what he's done
out
of the gate as a starter is really impressive.
Jordan Love has hit a level in the last 5, 6, 7 weeks that is so high it feels like it has to be fake. You know what I mean?
I was going to say the same thing. It feels too good.
But if it
Can
isn't,
he actually do that? Yeah, I mean, yes.
Like if he is in fact this good, he's the answer, right? Because if he's this good, he's immediately in the category of, like, he's put himself on the level of Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow already. It's just that he's only done it for a few games, and it's like when you know that that's the level, you're automatically assuming that he's probably not going to be at that level the whole time because almost nobody is. But if he's actually able to be at that level, like if he's reached that point now, he's the answer. I can't be sure that that's true until I see it again next year.
I was kind of thinking the same thing. Love is playing so well since whatever the cutoff point is. And analytically, that's dangerous,
yes.
Right? You can't just,
right.
Since Thanksgiving. But when it's the first time a guy has played, and, there is this element to, okay, the light went on, something switched. I guess the counter to that is last year at this time we were saying the same thing about Trevor Lawrence. I'll also say that the level of play Jordan Love has had is higher than Trevor Lawrence has ever had. This is insane. Love is unbelievable right now. But last year at this time we said, well, if you take Trevor Lawrence back to week 8 or week 9, he's become maybe not a top 5 quarterback, but that top 8 at least quarterback that you're expecting, and there's potential to grow. And he never really took that step this year. So it doesn't always mean it's going to be this continued ascent, But man, the run that Love is on is out of this world.
Yeah, it's always dangerous to just pick a point in the season and say, from this moment on, he's this level, therefore that's going to be it going forward. And it's such a high level that you automatically assume there's going to be regression and he's going to come back down to earth a bit. But as I said, if he hasn't, like if this has just been his development arc and he is now the second half of the season version of Jordan Love forever, I mean, he's the guy you would choose. Because also, by the way, bear in mind that he's doing this with a bunch of wide receivers that are all like second year or earlier, right? They're either rookies or second year receivers. If those guys get even better next year, and instead of just, well, they're useful enough and they're all vaguely impressing relative to expectations, if they like jump forward in year 2 and now we're talking about like this is one of the best young receiving cores we've ever seen, and Jordan Love is still playing at this level, well, he's going to look even better.
Yeah, it's very interesting. One more thing I want to shout out, the big data bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the one on whether or not to spill or to set the edge, to box, spill, or dent the puller. It was a really good study. So this, the big data bowl, the NFL puts it on every year, and aspiring data scientists, you get this data, the same data set, and you have to solve a problem. I don't actually know what the problem was, but one team tried to solve the idea of when a team is on a running play and you're playing defense, and it's a power counter type of play, so there's a puller. One of the questions a defense has to answer is how does the end man on the line of scrimmage handle the puller? Mm-hmm. There's a couple different ways to do it, right? You can set the edge and stay outside and everybody else has to fill the gaps inside, or you can spill, wrong arm, however you want to call it, where you're trying to get inside the puller knowing that you're going to have a teammate get outside and take contain, or you could just straight up try to dent it and compress the edge, whatever it might be. But they used big data to kind of study that and look at, based off of if it's 7-man front and this type of run concept, what the optimal play would be using EPA. And it was pretty good. I mean, it's very informative because a lot of times when you get the big data stuff, there are people who don't actually know a lot about football, but they're data science geniuses, and they still come up with pretty good stuff. This was a great combination of knowing ball and then adding the data to it and actually solving a problem that is actionable basically for coaches. So I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I'll forward it over to you. It was making a lot of traction on Twitter yesterday because Chris Brown from Smart Football was on there and other people tweeting it out. It was pretty cool.
Now the important questions are coming in. Goat Scroat, great name. If you had the choice, would you pick cake or pie as a dessert?
Oh, cake.
Right. Cake is the answer.
Absolutely cake.
Pie is in fact overrated as a dessert.
The debate is more like a cake or a cupcake. Like that's what my kids debate for.
No, that's not a debate.
It's closer than pie.
Pie is one of those things that's very American, like cinnamon. You guys have an unhealthy fascination with cinnamon and peanut butter. And these are all things that the rest of the world finds confusing. So when you come to the States and it's like, oh, we have a big, a holiday, time to break out 7 different varieties of pie, everyone is like, what? Why? What's wrong with cake or other types of desserts that everyone else eats? It's very American peculiarity.
Yeah, the answer is absolutely cake.
That being said, I did have, those milk bar people that they ship cookies nationwide.
Oh, yeah.
They have a pie that it's got a colloquial nickname of like crack pie or something because it's supposed to be like crack. So you need more. Got to have it.
Understood.
I forget. I don't know what it is. It's a weird, but it's tasty. It's nice. That's good. That's good pie.
Crack pie.
Yeah.
Speaking of sending food across the nation, we might have a special offer coming up soon. We might have the ability for you guys to order some really good food. Yeah. We'll let you know soon. It's professional tease right there. Mm-hmm. One more thing to highlight, the mock draft. It's mock draft sim season, right? 24 teams have been eliminated. And when you're eliminated, there's nothing better than mock drafting. And right now we've got a promo code for the PFF mock draft simulator. 30 MDS is the promo code. So 30 MDS. You get 30% off annual subscriptions. Draft your favorite team with the mock draft simulator. Personal endorsement of the MDS. Here's my personal endorsement. I use it every day. Huh? Yeah, that's what I do. I use it every day to mock draft. You get to see who would I take in the first round. So you can mock for every team. You can just do your team, do a 7-rounder. It's all over at pff.com. So you get 30% off your PFF subscription using that promo code 30 MDS.
Nice. Well done. Smooth.
That was my personal endorsement.
It's great. Absolutely.
Anything else here? We got any other questions in the chat before we wrap it up?
Well, Drew Forsyth is qualifying. Don't the British make small pies during the holidays, mincemeat pies, which technically they do, but I would suggest that is not an indication of an overall, certainly sweet pie obsession. They are simply a Christmas-specific thing. Now, you broaden it to savory pies, that's where the Brits get weird, because they're all about the pies, pie and mash, steak pie, steak and ale pie. Like the Brits, savory pies, they have a bit of a problem.
You're talking about the sugar.
Sweet pies is an American issue.
Like overall, generally?
Yeah.
Or just at holidays?
No,
Like
overall.
Drew's
Like you
asking us.
have, I think you have an institutional, national over focus on pies as a dessert
As
substance.
American as apple pie.
Yeah.
Crazy Brits.
Crazy Brits.
That's what Barry says. Not me.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Not me.
I'm not British, so I don't. We can trash them all we want.
They started this company.
They,
The crazy Brits. We're here because of him.
Yeah.
Because of Neil. All right, is that it? It's
I
time to
hope
go.
so.
I got to get
Yeah.
home. All right, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Tomorrow, though, it is division round preview time. 4 games. We'll be here 4 hours. 4-game previews tomorrow. And then we'll start do some more off-season driven content. I know you guys have been talking draft and everything, you and Trevor, for a while, but you and I are going to dive into that even more. Might have Jim Nagy on here next week, previewing the Senior Bowl, so a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be time to ramp up the draft content. I got to start watching people again.
Yeah, back to it. All right. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. See you again tomorrow, previewing the divisional round.